About ready to get started? Great. All right, well, welcome everybody. I am Jack Redpath. I'm the lead of the OCP Enterprise Connectivity Solutions project. Just a little bit about my background. I spent my career in consulting, which mainly deals with network, as the lines are fuzzy all the time. What is network, what's not network? But yeah, and mostly working with, medium, large-sized companies that, network refresh, strategic planning, really coming up with, the vision of, what we're going to do next. Because some of these companies, they are in the, 10-year cycle for networking. Yeah, they'll, still be running equipment if it still works. Why bother, switching it out, they say. It's a matter of cost consciousness, or maybe it's just a matter of operations. And, once you get a piece of hardware in, ripping that out and trying to put in something new, that's going to be, pretty challenging. So, I've really cut my teeth on infrastructure. And it's definitely, a passion of mine. Personally, I, pick up what I can, either, from work, when it's, headed to the dumpster, or, good eBay finds, but, I, dabble myself. So, it's really at the, core of what excites me about, OCP, right? You guys have been out there on the floor. You guys have seen, all of the amazing hardware that, is constantly being rolled out. So, kudos to you guys for doing it. That's what, keeps us going. And so with that, let me actually talk about this subgroup, Enterprise Connectivity Solutions. So we're born out of CBW. Some of you are, familiar with CBW, and if you're not, that's okay too. It was an earlier iteration of this, and we took on the moniker and name Enterprise Connectivity Solutions to really emphasize that we do want to target the enterprise. And not only do we want to target the enterprise, but we want to target solutions. And I'll dive a little bit more into that. But let me talk about some of the ingredients that we need to make that happen. First and foremost, a lot of what we need to make this happen is all over the place, right? Whether it's inside of, OCP and part of, what we're doing, or if it's outside, we don't care. We really want to get things that people are working on and not have to reinvent the wheel, right? And what that means is there's a lot of pieces out there, right? And we haven't really put them together into, what I'll call a solution. So that's part of what we're trying to do here. And some of those people who do this are, the ecosystem partners that, enterprises work with right now. They're going to be the system integrators, the ODMs, the enterprise, companies themselves. So, especially the system integrators, for an enterprise, I think there's, important people, but, those system integrators are, what put together the solution. Or if they haven't put it together, they'll at least run the operations for the solution. So that's the first ingredient, is really building a community. And that's going to be across, OCP and not OCP, right? Because it's everywhere. The second ingredient is this enterprise focus. So this is going to be the heart of, this presentation. And when we talk about the enterprise, it's very different than what we're doing right now with OCP. Enterprise needs end-to-end solutions that are ready to deploy. Sorry, 1 second. Ready to deploy. What that means is I've got a lot of pieces. I've got not only the hardware, not only the software, but I've got the architecture. I've got the documentation for deployment. I've got the finances behind it. I've got the BOM. I've got the operational parts, right? That's a solution. Now, as an enterprise, I could take that. I could take that up the chain and I could start, soliciting it for, for consideration, right? If I'm going with an incumbent vendor, we have all that stuff already in the enterprise, or they could build it for us, right? And so with that missing piece in OCP, we can't compete in the enterprise. So we need somebody to focus on that. And so that's what we're hoping to do here is get that stuff in a package that, not the decision maker, but the person that is going to talk to the decision maker, they have all that stuff ready to go, and they could answer the questions, the whys, right? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing OCP? Are we saving money? Are we going faster with it, right? Why, right? That's a constant question in enterprise. Anytime you're pitching, at least, what I've seen, it's not exclusive, but in my clients, anytime you're pitching, a project, if you're changing things, they want to know why. Why are we doing this, right? So, again, it's best practices, right? Because, there could be 10 different ways to put together a solution. But what we need is the best practices. And that, again, goes back to the community. They're the ones that have seen and done it, right? Not to talk about also, not to mention, case studies, right? When you're putting together that material that is going to go in front of the decision maker, they need to see that this has been done places before and it has been successful. Nobody wants to be the first one to do it unless there's some kind of real incentive, like, we're saving a bunch of money because they're just basically giving it to us so we could do the case study on it, right? Nobody wants to be number one, right? Everybody wants to take on the type of infrastructure that you're putting in after someone else has validated. I can't emphasize this enough. Ready to deploy, end-to-end, solution package. Those are really the core tenets of making enterprise happen, right? And it's not going to happen by itself. Somebody has to work on this. So again, this is what we're hoping to do. We're an incubation project, which means, we've started the process of becoming a formal project. And again, it's Enterprise Connectivity Solutions, which means that, when you look at the enterprise, you're going to see things that are much different from what we've done before in networking. And that's, in particular, locations. While OCP has tackled, the data center and really mastered it, things like branch offices, retail locations, these things are not fleshed out yet. They're not created as a solution. There are partners right now with OCP that do have retail locations. They have a footprint in stores, and getting all that information, right, putting it together, that's going to be monumental challenge. You have to follow the people, document it along the way, and then publish it, right? It's always after the fact, right? We think about documentation. We're always like, it's another thing that we got to do. We got to go in that database. We got to upload all that documentation, that architecture. It's an incredible, amount of work, that gets created, right? And it always seems like, why are we doing this again, But in this case, in order to facilitate, these enterprise, customers that, again, don't have the internal teams to do this kind of stuff, right? When you're talking about Facebook, you're talking about, large hyperscalers, you could throw, hordes of people at a problem because you have that resource. That doesn't exist in the enterprise. It requires a lot of, either work that is happening at the system integrator level, and you're buying it. You're basically buying it, right? You're not actually normally building those internal teams. Yes, it's been done before, but for the majority of enterprise customers that I've seen, trying to build an internal team like that is a very, very difficult endeavor. You got to find the talent. You got to find the buy-in from the management, right? That's a big piece of it, right? And how are you going to do this without, being able to explain, again, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? Not only that, but, we're now in a place where, with this pandemic, we've all been remote for a long time. And, we've seen the infrastructure break. Certainly had to work with a number of clients that, they expected 10% of the workforce to work from home. And once it reached that, 95%, everything broke, right? And so that kind of dives into the point as well is, it's about creating also disaggregation, right? Another funny story is, my client, who was retail, decided on getting a product that was a network white box vendor that put together the hardware, they put together the software. It was a package, but it still was disaggregated. They had a number of different vendors you could buy from. So this is, we're getting the project, we're starting to roll out, we're, kind of in the process, and this is March 2020. It turns out that what we had actually qualified the product on, hardware-wise, was manufactured in a place in China called Wuhan, right? So everything stopped. And what we had to do was figure out, okay, what are we going to do now? We've qualified this piece of hardware. We've qualified this software, but now we can't get this hardware. The lead times went from 2 weeks to 10 weeks to 52 weeks. No clear sight of, when that was going to be available. So because they chose for a disaggregated solution, what we're able to do is pivot to another hardware platform, right? And that made the project continue on. Had they decided, to go with something that, was completely integrated, completely proprietary, it wouldn't have been possible to make that shift. And that would have derailed the entire project. Who knows, where it would be today. Management might have, decided, this is not a priority anymore. So, this has ripple effects, right? And so a big piece of this, and it has always been a part of OCP, is disaggregation. I can run software that I want. I could run hardware that I want. And now I need architectures and solutions, which is what we're working on. not only is it when you put the solution in, but now I have to actually run it. And that's the operation side of things. It's not easy. If nobody has told you how this is supposed to be run, how are you supposed to know? And when I say how are you supposed to know, I also mean from the system integrator side, those trusted partners that enterprises work with. Nobody's created that. So how are they supposed to know how to run it? Right? How can they put support down? How could they put a contract together with a dollar amount that says, I'm going to support this, without knowing exactly what they're doing from an operational standpoint to make that happen? So we got to build it. Technically speaking, there are, again, a number of projects that we as Enterprise Connectivity Solutions don't want to reinvent the wheel for. And that's going to be things that are not put together as a solution yet for these different parts. Zero-touch provisioning and power over Ethernet in particular. We've talked to a number of different products already as a group and, understood the space and understood, what pieces we need, who has those pieces. If they have the piece, what in addition needs to be developed to make that bolt together with, everything else to end up as, again, a solution. I keep using the word solution because I need to drive that home. I need to explain that it's not just hardware and software, right? It's everything down to the, how do we run this thing? And how do we put this thing out there? How much is it going to cost? Right? What's the BOM? What's the BOM for this architecture? So, just to recap, there is a diverse set of network needs that are in the enterprise that are not necessarily handled by OCP today. Again, I said necessarily because it is true, it's out there. It's just a matter of where is it, right? And it's all these little puzzle pieces that we got to bring together so we could see the whole picture. And when we talk about also the challenges that are out there, it's a known entity in the projects. It's a challenge that they're tackling. And again, we don't want to do that necessarily because it's being done already. What our goal is to put it all together. Huge opportunity. Enterprise customers are starting to adopt OCP. We saw Target. We saw, a number of different, enterprise customers who are now making that decision. And they need help. They can't do this without us. And so, ultimately, this is how we actually drive adoption. We want it to be a joint community effort. They need to be at the table too. These enterprise customers, they know what they need, right? And we know where the pieces are. So that's why we have to work together. We need more people to make this happen. We have enough, to have momentum, but we're doing a call to action for more people to get involved. This is you guys. A lot of us are enterprise employees. A lot of us have the knowledge on what needs to be created. Or maybe you're a system integrator. This is the ground floor. You have an opportunity here. We have a twice-a-month meeting, and that's on Tuesdays. That's going to be noontime Pacific. We also have a mailing list. And if you want to check out the charter to hear more about what we're trying to do here, it's at that wiki link there. Because it describes it in a way that's, pretty succinct. And really hones in on the important parts of what Enterprise Connectivity Solutions is. So thank you very much. I'll open it up just for a few minutes here for any questions we have, either from the audience, or I think we also have perhaps some from the internet. Okay, the internet is without questions. Any questions? Well, I just have a question for you guys. Do you want to get involved with this? Do you want to, make a change here to OCP that's going to make this happen for the network? So thank you so much.